In times when people began to strike each other with sticks, there arose a need for defense, and thus the shield was born. The shield is intended for blocking or deflecting enemy strikes, thereby protecting the fighter from injuries. It consists of a flat or curved surface. Its outer side may bear images, symbols of belonging to a clan, or military alliance. To protect the edges from lateral slashing strikes, the ends of the shield are often adorned with leather or metal strips, and these edges are also curved. Despite the constant improvement of protective armor, the shield continued to be used until the appearance of firearms. This is primarily due to the fact that armor could not withstand direct hits from weapons. However, even if such a blow was withstood, as in the case of plate armor, the force of the impact was absorbed by the protective coating and the person's body itself. Let me explain. Thus, although plate armor helped avoid wounds, soldiers could still suffer bruises, fractures, and other injuries. Therefore, there was a need for a type of protection that would absorb the force of the weapon's impact at some distance from the person, thereby protecting them from accompanying damage. Additionally, the shield can be used in attacks since it is held in the hand and provides sufficient maneuverability. There are two ways a warrior can grip a shield, two types of attachment. In the first attachment, the arm is passed through securing straps, and the arm extends parallel to the plane of the shield. This is characteristic of large medieval shields, which could completely cover the owner's torso. The second attachment appears in the form of a handle that the fist grasps. If a handle is used, an indentation under the handle is often covered by a boss for hand protection. In this case, the arm extends perpendicular to the plane of the shield. This grip is used in buckler shields. There are also shields that combine both types of attachment. They have 3 loops, one in the center of the shield and 2 others on either side of it. To facilitate carrying, a shoulder strap can be used to carry the shield on the neck or shoulder. The strap is convenient because during marches, the shield does not need to be carried in hand, and in battle, it allows wielding 2-handed weapons. The main materials used in shield production were wood, covered with leather, sometimes with bronze overlays. Early shields used metal bosses and metal strips to reinforce the shield and nails. Occasionally, metal shields were encountered. As noted by Wendelin Bohane, the first shields of medieval society, such as those of the Germans, were quite simple. In general appearance, they resembled shields used in Roman legions but were less curved with a quadrangular shape. Made of willow twigs, they were covered with fur. Shields during the time of Charlemagne were mostly made of wood covered with leather and reinforced with iron strips. I want to say that despite the enormous variety of shapes, designs, and colors, historical shields can be roughly divided into 4 categories. Lightweight shields, small, ordinary, and large, stationary shields. Let's consider each of them. Lightweight shields. The history of shields, presumably, should start with ancient Egypt. Some of the earliest depictions of warriors armed with shields are found on the reliefs of the Ramesseum. This is the memorial temple of Pharaoh Ramesses II, who lived in the 13th century. Such shields often consisted of a woven frame of twigs covered with leather. They had enough strength to repel lightweight darts and blows from simple cold weapons, as the twigs and leather acted as springs and did not yield to projectiles. Or the weapon pierced the shield but got stuck in it. This category of defensive equipment includes, for example, the Greek pelta. It is in the shape of a crescent moon. It was used as the primary means of protection by light infantry in ancient Greece, who served as skirmishers, hurling darts into the enemy's front lines. This type of shield has a hand grip in the center and a strap for carrying. Some shields were covered with fur-lined leather, as was often done in Africa, or had wool padding between the shield itself and the outer cover, as with Plains Indians. This increased its cushioning quality. The sizes of lightweight shields could vary. Sometimes they covered the warrior from cheek to knee, but more commonly, the diameter did not exceed 70 centimeters, and the weight was around half a kilogram. Leather shields did not always have a twig frame. It could simply be a circle of thick, specially tanned rawhide, which not only withstood blows from cold weapons but could also deflect sling stones. Shields could be made from absolutely any available materials. For example, the Japanese targe was made from the shell of a sea turtle. Shields could also have some enhancements. For example, Apache warriors attached mirrors to their shields to dazzle opponents. Africans, on the other hand, could place a set of throwing blades on the inner side of the shield. Small shields. Typically, they ranged from 40 to 70 centimeters in diameter. They are relatively lightweight, from 1 to 2.5 kilograms. Designed primarily to deflect impact from hand-held weapons, including heavy ones. The small shield was made of sturdy wood, covered with leather, and rimmed with iron. There were also fully iron shields. Additionally, they could be flat or have a hemispherical shape. The configuration was most often round, but it could also be rectangular, triangular, and contain some enhancements, such as a notch for a spear. It was fixed immovably, on the left side. Its main purpose in this case was to deflect the spear thrust aside. Regular shields. For all shields of this type, approximately the same dimensions are characteristic, that is, they are 45 to 55 centimeters. These shields were assembled from massive iron parts, wood, and leather, and sometimes entirely encased in bronze, among other things. They weighed up to 10 kilograms, not the lightest. In addition, all these shields were characterized by a forearm grip. In addition to the usual handle with loops for the elbow and wrist, which was used in combat, they, being too heavy for one hand, were often equipped with a strap that was slung over the shoulder. This was done for long marches. This category includes heavy wooden Viking shields, for example, bronze shields of Greek hoplites, wooden shields of Roman legionaries, and shields of Russian warriors. Long almond-shaped shields in the Middle Ages also belong to this category, and large stationary shields. It is very difficult to define this variety of shields by weight and shape, as both weight and shapes could vary. They could be made from a variety of materials, ranging from willow twigs to steel. The handles for carrying and hanging were diverse because such a shield was not held in hand during battle. The method of deploying this shield during battle varied. Mostly, special people called shield bearers carried this shield. Typically, they did not participate in the battle, and their task was to move the shield to the desired parts of the battlefield. Shield bearers either carried it on attachments located on the sides of the shield, but this was only possible before the battle if the shield was used to create an additional stationary line of defense, or they hid behind it and held it by the handles located on the backside. A similar mission was performed by the Pavis shield used by Genoese crossbowmen, serving as both protection from arrows and a support for the crossbow. In the 16th century, fully metallic anti-bullet shields were also produced, but their weight reached from 12 to 20 kilograms, which is not too little. There were shields that were carried by more than one shield bearer. In this case, the shield already passed into the category of collective defense means. They were called mantlets. The most original were Assyrian shields equipped with a visor. They protected not only from front fire but also partially from above. Shield bearers observed through viewing slits. Now let's consider shields by their shape. Round ones are a universal category of shields, optimally combining the width of the shape and the average weight, allowing quick repelling of blows from any direction. Such a shield was additionally reinforced with steel facing and a sturdy boss, a curved steel plate that was aimed to receive a blow, turning it into a serious barrier not only for piercing but also for slashing blows. The shield was convex, and weapons slipped off it from the inside. It had strap loops, one was held while the other was worn over the shoulder. However, in doing so, the weight of the shield more than doubled, requiring considerable strength from its owner. Later, almond-shaped shields began to be used, covering almost the entire body from chin to knee. Foot soldiers could stick them into the ground and lean their spears against them, creating an insurmountable barrier for the enemy. Then triangular, trapezoidal, rectangular shields appeared, sometimes with a shaped notch for a spear. Usually, they were double-sloped, fitting well to the body. Various forms of shields were common among the ancient Greeks, but among the equipment of hoplites, heavy Greek infantry warriors who formed the backbone of the army, these same wide round shields predominated. In ancient Greece, a fallen warrior was carried from the battlefield on his shield. Thus, the combat shield acquired a kind of ritual significance. In the Roman army, there were various forms of shields, but rectangular convex shields gained particular popularity. It was with their help that the Romans formed their famous tortoise formation. Scandinavian shields from the 9th to the 11th century were round. Their diameter varied greatly from 65 to 90 centimeters. Scandinavians made their shields from pine, ash, maple, lime, or oak boards, depending on which wood species predominated in a particular area. The preference was given to shields made of ash or oak due to the strength of these species, or lime, which was significantly lighter. The thickness of the shields depended on the wood species and could be 6 or 12 millimeters. Russian shields had a round shape, made of wooden planks, and were equipped with a hemispherical or sphericonic forged boss. From the 11th century, almond-shaped shields became widespread, which immediately became very popular among cavalrymen because they effectively covered the rider from the chin to the knees, a feat circular shields could not achieve despite their impressive size. At the end of the 12th and beginning of the 13th centuries, due to increased facial protection, the upper edges of almond-shaped shields gradually began to lose their rounded shape and became increasingly straight, resembling a triangle. The shields became slightly smaller in size and noticeably lighter, making it possible not only to passively shield but also to manipulate, maneuvering them to deflect blows. This was related to mounted combat. The smooth lower curve allowed the rider to cover part of the torso and thigh from both the right and left sides without hindering the horse's withers. With such a shield, one could freely engage in combat, maneuvering it to block strikes from any side of the horse's head and deliver strikes oneself. If a warrior grew tired of wielding the sword with one hand, he could sling the shield behind his back on a strap and grip the hilt with both hands. Good armor allowed this without risking losing a leg or arm. Triangular shields were also widespread in the army of Kievan Rus. They were not only wielded by Russian knights but were also installed on the sides of Russian boats, ladya, for protection against enemy arrows and spears. Another type of shield was the run city, a field movable fortification made of wooden shields with loopholes, used by Russian troops in the 16th century. They were transported with the army in a train called the Grad Obaz. When arranging troops in a camp made of run city shields, various fortifications, walls, and towers were also assembled. The shields were fastened with wooden, iron, and rope connections and coated with clay. Triangular shields can also be found in the armament of medieval knights during the Crusades. Shields were an integral part of the nobility's coat of arms.